Greetings, friends. This is Gemini Brett on November 8th, 2021. I had an amazing dream this morning, but I'm not sure I'm ready to share that one. What I do want to share is some astrological and astronomical expansions on our moon magic, or our knowledge of how these three parts of the philosophy of the whole world, and I'm talking about spirit, soul, and matter, or circle, crescent, and cross, or sun, moon, and earth work. Although actually we're going to start by speaking about this beautiful gathering of global guidesses. Moon conjoined Venus last night. I spoke about this yesterday and said a thing that was actually incorrect, which was that because they differ in latitude and declination during their conjunction, there would not be an occultation. And that was true. And actually, you know what? Let's retrograde back to that one at the end of this flow, because I think I want to start by speaking of translation of light. I'm not sure if it was in my share yesterday or the day before, where I was speaking about the void of course moon. I think that was yesterday. Because the moon yesterday was just in the very last degrees of tropical Sagittarius, and having cleared the sextile with Jupiter, that was the last aspect. And typically we'll use Ptolemaic aspects. That means what? Conjunctions, sextiles, squares, trines, and opposition, not the inconjuncts, not the semi-sextiles, as we'll call connections with neighboring signs, or quincunxes, the 150-degree angle, the aspect from a sign to the signs of the neighbors of your polarity, right? So I say aspects, but traditionally those are not aspects at all. I show them on this chart in these green. So these are the semi-sextile inconjuncts between neighboring signs. In this case, Venus receiving, if you will, a semi-sextile from Mercury. Oh no, sorry, that's the sextile. Where is the semi-sextile here? Venus and the south node semi-sextile. Same true on the other side of Mercury in the south node. And then from the north node's point of view, Gemini, it's a yod, we say, right? These two quincunxes in this direction to Scorpio, and in this direction, or to Scorpio, Mercury, and in this direction to Capricorn, Venus. Those two signs are also said, like the neighbors of Gemini, to be blind to that sign. That's just traditional aspect theory. So in void of course work, there truly are many different criteriums, different types of voids throughout the time of our craft, as it is with all things astrology. But the modern vision of void of course is that after moon makes her last aspect, and we use Ptolemaic aspects, conjunction, sextiles, squares, trines, and opposition. And most of us reserve this to visible planets, okay, stopping at Saturn. That's not true for everyone. Some people will still bring in Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Chiron even. I mean, start bringing in the asteroids and the other dwarf planets, and then the moon will just never void, right? But most of us will stop at Saturn. That's the old way, and use these Ptolemaic aspects of the tradition. And so here's an image where the moon has, by this criterion, gone void, because here in 24 Sagittarius, she has made her last aspect to a visible planet during her travel through that sign. And that last aspect was the sextile with Jupiter, right? And so it's said by this criterion of void, of course, that moon will then be void until she moves into the next sign, which of course is Capricorn. Okay, so void of course is an interesting thing. I mean, astrologers seem really hung up on like anything that they can strike fear into you about. Sorry to, it's just speak what I feel. And certainly we are living in a weird world with its pleasures and its significant pains and horrors. So it's not like I have an astrology that does not reserve space for terrors like war and other way awful. But we also want to teach the lovely side of astrology. And it's weird because void of course, it's usually used by astrologers these days. You hear the same things that they'll say when they talk about Mercury retrograde Just don't do anything, don't sign contracts, don't have an election, don't start a trip, don't do anything. But the beautiful side is the other side. And people say this with Mercury retrograde too, right? Go inside, right? Reflect, all that stuff. And that's beautiful. And I said something very similar when I was talking void of course moon yesterday. I saw that the moon squared Neptune and then sextiled Jupiter and then went into this modern criterion of void of course. And it's like, yeah, so shut off the work and listen to the dreams and don't wake up right away and get to the computer, but rather dance and journal whatever happened in the amazing stories of the night, that kind of realm. And the coming void, of course, will actually be quite long. So let's look to that. I shared this yesterday too. Moon now in Capricorn will conjoin Venus. That's actually happened. Let me just move through time from here and we'll watch what Moon has done so far. So Moon conjoined Venus. That was after I took this photo you see on the right. So here's that conjunction. And now Moon's going to sextile Mercury. And then Moon will sextile Mars. And yeah, we'll let that happen. So Moon's now at 6-7 degrees past the degree of Mars. I think I'm going to stop it here around sunrise, where Moon was at 8.5 degrees here in California at sunrise today. Now, there's still one aspect to come. So you see Jupiter at a higher degree, right? But neighboring signs. So Capricorn and Aquarius, though traditionally they're called like in girding. They both wear the girdle of Saturn. Traditionally, Capricorn and Aquarius are Saturn's houses. And so they share that Saturnian connection by aspect theory, aspect meaning to see. They do not see one another. They are blind to one another. Then this is true for all neighboring signs. And that's a kind of an interesting transmission around switches in polarity. All right. So though Jupiter is in a higher degree, the Moon will not aspect Jupiter from Capricorn, according to the traditional thought. All right, we see Neptune in quite a high degree here. And yes, Capricorn and Pisces sextile, but most of us, as I said before, will stop this consideration at Saturn, right? That's the traditional way. And so though it's important that Moon will sextile Neptune after sextiling the sun, and at some point when Moon's around 18 degrees Capricorn, she'll be at the midpoint of the Sun Neptune trine, and I think that's a beautiful thing and important for us to consider. We will say that after Moon perfects the sextile with the transiting Sun, and that's 9 p.m. on November 8th, 2021 on the Pacific time clock, Pacific Standard Time. Daylight losing's crime has just ended and everything got weird once again, but it kind of came back to the norm. Anyway, it's here right after the Moon sets in California that she perfects the sextile with the Sun, now at 17 degrees Scorpio. And then Moon will be void of course for like a day. The Moon at this point, approaching her average speed. She's still moving a little bit on the quicker side because she's opposite Lilith on the chart, and Lilith tells us where the Moon is far and slow. So opposite Lilith, perigee, where the Moon is close and fast. So Moon's likely moving faster than her average. Definitely. See here, 14.33 degrees. Moon's typical speed is 13.33. So I can see that within a day, the Moon will jump into the next sign of Aquarius, right? So, but this void will be about a day long. So on the clock from 9:06 p.m. Pacific on November 8th, 2021, Moon's last Ptolemaic aspects to a visible planet in the sign of Capricorn this month. So this is this out of bounds Capricorn Moon sextile Scorpio Sun. And from that time at 9:06 p.m. tonight until Moon ingresses the following sign of Aquarius, which is 7:03 p.m. tomorrow, Moon will have this long void, of course, right? So almost a day, about 22 hours minus a few minutes. And then Moon will come into Aquarius, and Moon from there will not see Venus, right? Neighboring sign. So her first aspect will be, it looks like the square to Mercury. And this is where we need to be careful because Moon's not the only one who moves. She just moves most quickly, right? So it looks like Moon's first aspect will be the square to Mercury, but perhaps by the time Moon is able to move those 6 degrees and 42 minutes to catch up to Mercury from 0 to where Mercury is, perhaps Mercury will have already conjoined Mars. And so it might look like this is a Moon applying to Mercury, but it might be Moon applying to Mars. And given the barking dog that you might hear, I'm shutting the door. Seems to me this is going to be actually Moon applying to Mars, not to Mercury. So let's see. And by the way, we look at the Moon applying to Mercury, and then we'll say that Mars intercepts that. It might be a liberal use of that word. So let me go Moon, square. I'll do Mars because I believe that one will be first. Yeah, there we go, right? So Moon at 727 squares Mars at 727 Scorpio. And you see that Mercury has already crossed past Mars by 734. And then Saturn at 739. So yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like this is the aspect of the month, this Moon, Saturn in Aquarius with their square with Mercury, Mars in Scorpio, you know, and Uranus here at the time, kind of at that Mercury, Mars, Sun midpoint across the way, forming a T square, Jupiter in Aquarius. I mean, there's a lot of energy. We probably want some Leo to bounce that T square out, but I'm taking it a little too far in the future right now and maybe away from what I want to share today. Let's even see here, where is Moon going to carry Mars's light to? Is her next aspect with Mercury or with Saturn? And I need to go back through time. So the question is, and it looks like Mercury. Right, so Moon squares Mars, then Moon squares Mercury, and then Moon will conjoin Saturn. And then she will square the Sun, and then she will conjoin Jupiter, and then she will go void of course at that time, and her travel through the sign of Aquarius. But that's then. Let's go back to now. So what I want to share about you is the idea of translation of light. It's really, in a sense, the foundational cosmology beneath void of course, and for some reason it's typically not taught or even not known, which is this weird thing. And it's probably because translations most learn as part of the horary astrology, part of the astrology of divination or answering a question in the moment. Some use translations in electional astrology, the astrology of electing a time for success. Though I love using translation of light in natal astrology, and I'm certainly not the first. I mean, this was done by Firmicus, a Hellenistic astrologer way back in the day. So translation of light is actually very simple. I'm going to go back in time to this Moon-Venus conjunction. Actually, you know what? First, I'm going to go to yesterday at 5:30 p.m. Gosh, the dog is excited right now. So it'll be interesting to see what's happening right now, right? No, the dog's a dog and she's in her, what she considers to be a guard tower. And I think there's a bird in the bird bath outside, and that's just not okay in her domain. All right. Anyway, so this is probably when I took the picture that you see on your right. Which is this Moon-Venus conjunction. And look, we speak the name of the faster moving planet first, because that will, you know, you'll hear astrologers call that a Venus-Moon conjunction. And okay, like if Moon is meeting Venus, Venus is meeting Moon. And if I talk about like a Sun-Uranus opposition, I mean, in a natal chart, psychologically or whatever, and in a mundane reality, experientially, that's probably going to, you know, better be represented through the term Uranus is opposing the Sun. Yeah. But if I don't know good grammar, which is speak the name of the faster moving planet first in aspects, then I won't see that it's Sun who is separating away from Uranus. See that? Because Sun's in a higher degree. So Sun opposed Uranus at new moon time when Sun was back here in 12 and change. Mars, Mercury, they are the planets that are applying to oppose Uranus. So modern astrology usually limits its kind of witness of aspects to orb, right? To the geometry. So Sun is like more strongly opposite Uranus. It's only 3 degrees and a little bit, where for Mars, it's like almost 7 degrees in that opposition. But Sun is separating from Uranus. It's done that, right? That doesn't mean it's not also here. Like the soil from which the plant sprouts is just as important as the atmosphere into which it is growing. All right. But at the same time, like the Mars Uranus thing is coming or anticipating it, the energy is building. The Sun Uranus thing has happened. So it's here, but there's a significant difference in application about to happen, anticipation versus separation. Been there, done that. And what do we do about it now? Do you see what I mean? And as you can imagine, traditional astrology, and really, I should say all astrologers, should have kind of more, maybe even pay more attention to the application, applying aspects, right? They're the only ones from the traditional point of view which can testify, which means that the aspect will perfect before either of the planets considered leave the signs of the aspect. Because obviously here, Sun is not going to oppose Uranus in Scorpio until next year when Sun goes all the way around and comes back. That opposition has already happened. All right. So speak the name of the faster moving planet first. Moon moves faster than Venus. So it is Moon who can translate the light of Venus somewhere else. And this is how it goes down. It's a beautiful thing. So we'll see after this time that Moon will conjoin Venus. And here in Pacific time, in my location, that happened after they set, right? So I got to see them pretty close. Oh, this was maybe my latest photograph last night. Hopefully that's on the screen. Let me make sure. I think this one was colored a little bit more interestingly. Venus with all these rays, which is actually the aperture of the camera. But I think that's a wonderful thing, right? This is a Capricorn Moon Venus conjunction. With Capricorn, we kind of talk structures, and with Venus as bright as Venus is now, and I'm hopefully you've had clear enough skies to notice that amazement. Venus is approaching her maximum brilliancy, which will happen in very early December of 2021. And it's just amazing. You look at Venus in the sky right now after sunset, and there's just these rays coming off of it. They're just so amazingly bright and powerful, right? So if you've been looking at Venus, it wouldn't be strange to see all these rays. Yet, what's happening here is, if you know camera, this is kind of a high f-stop, right? So the aperture is very closed, and the aperture of the camera actually has these blades. And so these different rays are an effect of the apparatus, not necessarily of the planet. Well, when you see Venus shining and casting rays, that's also an effect of the apparatus called your eyeball, and the way that you are translating that light within into, you know, an experience of your vision, right? So that's I will just say an interesting thing, and maybe it's a little out of bounds, and this Moon Venus conjunction is out of bounds as I described yesterday. But truthfully, our experience and like the foundational matter of what's going on here on Earth, which is a very Capricornian thing, you have to understand that that is also very personal, because literally we have different apparati, right? Like we have different apertures, we have different lenses, even the way that we're receiving light. So while that these particular beautiful geometric rays of Venus in this image are, in a sense, an artifact of the apparatus, that doesn't mean they're not real. All right, so I want to plant that seed, because I think it will also be important when we get to the next theme of this share, which is parallax and occultation, eclipse. Okay, so yeah, this is probably the earliest image of the mix. Oh, this would have been around the same time as this one. And the same with this, right? And that was cool. Like I took a video last night just proving that I could see with my naked eye, or at least the camera could. I can't show you the video of my eyeballs yet, and I don't want that apparatus implanted personally, but that I could see Venus while the sun was still above the horizon, right? So that actually defies one thing I had been taught, which is you'd see no planets until the sun is below the horizon. Wrong. Obviously, you've seen the moon by day. Venus is bright enough, Jupiter too, that you can learn to see them in the daytime sky with your naked eye. And that says a lot, actually. That needs, I feel, because I've had that experience, to be added to my astrological approach. Okay. Right, so these moon-Venus conjunctions, they're just about as beautiful as it gets. Even in this particular image, you're seeing some earth shine. You see how you can see not only the crescent of the moon, which is the moon, soul, reflecting sun, spirit to earth, matter, okay, or Diana, moon, delivering Apollo, sun's birth, right? Moon delivers sunlight to earth. You can see it much more so here, right? Even though the moon is a waxing crescent and only this side of her mirror is reflecting sunlight to our eyes, the rest of the moon is visible, especially in these crescent phases, because of what is called earth shine. And so this is an amazing truth, that here we see in the crescent moon reflecting sunlight to earth. The rest of the moon is illuminated by light off of earth, which of course is sunlight too. Okay, so the crescent is sun to the moon to the earth. The rest of the moon is sun to the earth to the moon back to the earth. It's literally older than that crescent. And a cool thing to consider is, you know, the moon's going to have to get quote unquote older in this particular lunation to become full. When she does, she's going to move through the shadow of the earth because she will oppose the sun at near a lunar node, which means eclipse. All right, so let's return to that. I want to share one more image, which was wonderful to see last night. This is moon, now pretty blown out because I'm receiving a lot of light, so I can show more. Moon, Venus here, who are in the southwest. And this is Saturn near the horns of the sea goat, which are here sitting in the pine tree. And then this is Jupiter at the tail of the goat. Jupiter, it's just starting to break up, and it's the last time we'll have the opportunity to see this for 12 years. But Jupiter's been making this beautiful pyramid with these two stars of the goat, one of them being Deneb El Jedi, which means tail of the goat. The goatfish or sea goat is this kind of triangular or like delta, like Star Trek emblem shape that I'm tracing with my mouse here, with this kind of the middle of this sea goat, if you will. It's a very ecliptic star. It's called dorsum, which means the back of the goat. And in our day and age, it's around 14 degrees tropical Aquarius. So I can see Saturn here in the first decan of Aquarius, the first 10 degrees, and Jupiter here in the last decan, the last 10 degrees of Aquarius, because I know where the stars reside in the zodiac, so they will show me as the wanderers, the planetas dance through them, you know, where they are located. I really want to learn and help people learn to see the chart in the sky. That helps us bring more of the sky into the chart. And if you're interested in studying some of that transmission, tune into my Sacred Astronomy for Astrologers course, which you can find at geminibrett.com/courses. Okay. Translation of light. So yesterday, I believe, maybe the day before, I was speaking about this Venus-Mars sextile. All right. And notice I speak the name of the faster moving planet first. Venus moves faster than Mars, right? Usually, and she is right now. Let's check the speeds. Here's Venus is currently 55, almost 56 arc minutes per day, although slowing. So I say currently, but if I go to now, she'll be a little bit slower because Venus is preparing to pass Earth by, which will actually help her, though her phase is decreasing, right? So why is Venus's phase decreasing? She's actually currently moving slower than the sun. So what? Because Venus is faster than the sun, but not always, not from our point of view, Why? Because as Venus prepares to pass Earth by, she slows down to station retrograde. Okay, so the sun currently moving at 1 degree per day and Venus at less 56 arc minutes per day, the sun is actually closing this gap. It is when Venus matches the sun's speed where we experience what's called the maximum elongation, the greatest phase angle or distance between Venus and sun, which the greatest can be 48. That is not realized in every cycle, right? So Venus could only ever get to about this phase of the moon, right? If we were looking at, I mean, this is the moon Venus conjunction, right? Meaning they're about the same distance from the sun, right? And that means, let's like zoom in, that if I was able to lens Venus through like a telescope right now, and this is one of the things that Galileo noticed to help prove the heliocentric or sun-centered cosmology to be true, Venus has a shape right now very similar to the moon shape, right? I mean, the size of the moon's smile is completely a reflection of her phase, her distance from the sun. And so when Venus is that same distance from the sun as she is right now, right? This is the shape of her smile, just a much smaller mouth to take the metaphor too far, smaller mirror. You know, you often see Venus holding the mirror in the myths and the statues and all that. And Venus is, and yeah, I mean, you can kind of see it here, like you can still see in this photo, like the moon's crescent, even though like, you know, we're seeing all this light. It's for a different reason. We can't see Venus's crescent here, but you can kind of see it there. Here, you're just getting the camera aperture again. But Venus is very much in this phase right now. And it's like the maximum phase she can ever express, because Venus can only ever get at the maximum in any cycle 48 degrees from the sun, which is like a semi-square, right? 45 degrees, half of 90, half of a square. Well, a semi-square from 15 Scorpio is 1 Capricorn. So from 16 Scorpio is 0 Capricorn. So from 16 Scorpio is 1 Capricorn. So Venus here is just at 46.5 degrees, right? And it really is the same phase as the moon. So there's two interesting considerations, and maybe others that I'm not aware of, in regards to Venus's brightness, right? So this phase is going to decrease. I'm just going to move through days here. And just watch as the sun is approaching Venus and closing this gap between the two. So I'll go several days and you'll really get to see it. Like here's, let's do one more. Sun at 15 and Venus at 23. So that's only 38, right? Versus this 46, 48 that we're looking at now. Try to get back to the sun at 15 at the cross quarter, right? Halfway between Libra equinox and Capricorn solstice, which was realized yesterday, or the day before. And here's the conjunction of Moon and Venus. All right. So a couple considerations. One is, yes, Venus is actually decreasing in phase. And so, you know, the moon is less bright when closer to the sun, because less mirror to reflect that sunlight to our eyes. And, you know, these planets are all mirrors of sunlight, which is a great, great truth that can open us up to a deeper cosmology, perhaps, too. So that's one of the Venus factors. And in that factor, because the sun is applying to Venus, this is actually now a sun-Venus semi-sextile. Speak the name of the faster moving planet first, and it's rare, but in this time, actually sun is faster than Venus, okay? So it's a sun-Venus semi-sextile, and sun is going to continue to close the gap between Venus, so her phase, her reflection decreases, so less light. However, the reason why Venus is slowing is because she is stationing retrograde, which happens when Venus passes Earth by. So Venus is currently getting closer to Earth in space, right? So like literally. And that, yeah, I was trying to show you a website that has a temporary error, so that's not happening. So Venus getting closer to Earth means brighter, like, right? Like literally when you're closer to me, I can see more of you. I can see more light reflecting off of you, which is how I see you too, just like the reason why I see Venus. So there's these interesting two variables in Venus's brightness, right? So phase angle, distance from sun, but also proximity to Earth, right? And when Venus is in the middle of her retrograde cycle, which is when retrograde Venus conjoins sun from our point of view, that will be Venus closest to Earth. It will be called perigee. All right, so it's more than I meant to share there, but you know, these things are always longer than I intend them to be, and hopefully you enjoy the learning. If you do, by the way, you'll find a donate link at geminibrett.com if you'd like to give back anything for what you receive here. But of course, your presence is the greatest present. You know, what a wonderful time. We do have a Capricorn conjunction here to say, as I very seldom do, if you like this video, please hit the like button wherever you're seeing it. It really helps the algorithm get this thing around, you know. You could share it yourself. That would be, what a treat that would be to me. It would lift my heart. I do this to spread knowledge, right? Not to gain financially. But it's nice when the knowledge gets to spread further, right? So please help that out. And I'm not afraid to eat either. So again, there's a donate button at geminibrett.com. There's a courses button. There's a sessions link, a work with me button if you want to do a reading and look at some of these astrological and astronomical factors in your chart. In your chart, unless the moon is void, as it was when I was born, unless you consider Chiron, the moon is translating the light of a planet to another planet. So this is a really beautiful thing, right? We see this moon-Venus conjunction, and then moon will carry the light of Venus to Mercury. Because hopefully you can see that the next aspect that moon will make after this conjunction with Venus is the sextile with Mercury. And then she will sextile Mars. All right, well, I would it's kind of like Mercury's breaking something up in some senses, because I shared yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, that this Venus-Mars sextile will not testify. And the reason is, and let's just go through the days, and you'll see that Venus gets closer and closer to Mars, like here, 10.5 with Mars at 12, and then 15 with Mars at 16. I mean, they're only 45 degrees arc minutes, a third of a, 3/4 of a degree away from a perfect sextile at this point in November 22nd. And we continue. And at this point, right, it's only half a degree. It's 40 arc minutes. It's 2/3 of a degree between the Venus-Mars sextile perfecting. But let me show you Venus's speed at the time is 41 minutes, 41:21, and Mars is at 41:15. Okay, so they're like equal. Well, what about the next day? Mars 41:18 and Venus 40:13. So Mars's speed is faster than Venus, right? So typically we would say a Venus-Mars sextile, because why? Good grammar, speak the name of the faster moving planet first. That will let you know if it's applying or separating. Is it about to happen, right? Has it already happened? Well, here you look at the chart and you're like, oh, Venus is about to sextile Mars. Au contraire, because if we speak the name of the faster moving planet first, the day before on November 25th, this is applying Venus-Mars sextile, right? Venus moving at 41:21 and Mars moving at 41:15. But sometime between then and the next day, when Mars is 41:18 per day and Venus 40:13, sometime between then, their speeds were equal, okay? And that is also going to be this maximum. I don't want to even try to voice that. Anyway, what I want to share here is that now that Mars's speed is faster than Venus, yeah, I guess it is a maximum elongation between the two. Mars is going to now separate away from Venus, and this sextile will not testify. right? So it's like, it's really trying to happen. It wants to happen. And there's like a bunch of Mars in Capricorn and Scorpio, and, and if you look at Moon here, this is a cool time to stop, because Moon can kind of help connect them, right? So Venus now will never successfully perfect this sextile. They're so close to what we call partile, which means the same degree, but it is a sextile that will not testify, because this is no longer a Venus-Mars sextile. It's a Mars-Venus sextile. Speak the name of the faster moving planet first. And in this case, if we know that Mars is faster, Mars is actually separating away from Venus. So let's go to the next day. We see them, 41 arc minutes away from perfection here. And then the next day, it's 42. Did I do that right? No, 8. Yeah, it's 42 in the other direction. Okay. So, but look at the Moon. So this is November 27th. I'm pretty far into the future. This is a really cool demonstration of this. All right. So the Moon's previous aspect here was the square with the sun, right? So this is the third quarter moon of this current lunation that we are in, which began with a Scorpio new moon. So here is, oops, square sun. There, November 27th, 2021, Moon in Virgo squaring the Sagittarius sun, right? You can see that Moon squared Mercury, and then translates the light of Mercury to the sun. And then Moon will carry this tension, this Virgo Sagittarius tension, which is sometimes expressed as like a Mercurial Jupiter, or small picture, big picture, or data and the vision tension, right? She will carry that conversation that she had in square with the Moon to her next Ptolemaic aspect, which will be the trine with Venus. Right? And a Virgo Moon trining Capricorn Venus feels like a beautiful thing. And that is here. This is November 28th, 2021, 5:14 a.m. Pacific time. You see Moon trine Venus, 1858 of these Earth signs. Well, what's her next aspect going to be? And the answer is the sextile to Mars. Okay. So as we move through I'll do hours here. It'll be about 2 hours between that time. Well, it's just 1 hour, and now Moon sextile Mars. So this is a really cool thing, because Venus will not perfect the sextile with Mars. In fact, as we saw by this point in November 28, Mars is moving at 41 arc minutes in a third, 41.21 per day, and Venus at 38.35, right? You can see her noticeably getting slower. Venus can move up to about 1.25 degrees per day, and now we're, less than 3/4 of a degree per day. She's slowing to station retrograde, and because she's slowing now, Mars is actually moving faster. Mars is moving quite fast. The fastest speed from Earth's point of view through Earth's zodiac is when the planet is near the sun. All right. Outer planets, because when that's true for Mercury or Venus, it might be like this is a screaming fast Mercury, although we can't see him behind the sun. But it could also be retrograde Mercury conjoined the sun, and that's a tale for another time, I think. So Venus is preparing to retrograde. She's preparing to pass Earth by. She's slowing. Mars's speed has now overcome Venus's speed, and so now this is a separating Mars-Venus sextile. But the Moon is translating the light of Venus to Mars. And in this way, like if this is a horary question, this is a cool example. All right. So if you ask like, will I marry her? So I am the first house Scorpio, and traditionally that would be Mars, and her, the other in that question, is the 7th house Taurus, right? And traditionally that's Venus. And because this Venus-Mars, actually Mars-Venus sextile will not testify, though they are so close, it's like, no, actually you decide to like walk away from it. But that's not true. Why? Because the Moon is translating the light of Venus to Mars, helping them connect. There's like a third party literally that will come in, although the Moon is also a general significator for the querent, whoever asked the question, and so it's happening anyway. But to like get this point through, and the power of translations of light. Though the Mars-Venus sextile will not perfect, the moon's translation connects them. And that's why bringing it back to right now, or a little bit before right now, let me show you when moon sextiled Mercury not long ago. It was at 11:13 p.m. last night. So moon had conjoined Venus, right? I'm looking at just before that time. That was her first aspect in the sign of Capricorn. All right. And then moon would continue and then sextile Mercury and then sextile Mars. So I'm rooting for, in these months to come, when moon is in a sign that can see both Capricorn and Scorpio. And the next opportunity will not be Aquarius, because Aquarius has said not to see Capricorn. So let me show you moon into Pisces. Right, so moon can get into Pisces here, which will be 11:11, kiss an angel or whatever you do. All right, so here's moon in Pisces. And what's her first aspect going to be? Yes, it will be the sextile with Venus. Okay, and so let's look at moon sextile Venus. And then after that time, which is November 12th, around noon Pacific time, moon sextile Venus, what's her next aspect going to be? Well, just look at the degrees. And you may see that moon's at 6 and with Saturn's at 7, but no, because Pisces and Aquarius are neighboring signs. They do not see to eye. They cannot see one another. They're blind to one another. They're in conjunct. So moon will not carry the light of Venus to Saturn, but rather moon will carry the light of Venus to Mars. And that's a translation we want, again, because this Mars, Venus, at this time, let's see, Venus is at 53 arc minutes per day. Venus is still moving faster than Mars at that time on November 12th. So this is still a Venus-Mars applying sextile, but we know it does not testify. And so this is a beautiful truth to see that at this time, moon will carry the light of Venus to Mars. In this sense, connecting the 10th and the 4th, right? So yes, work for your parents' company, or something like that. And also connecting the energy here just locally of the 3rd and the 9th. So yeah, go to that college that you got into. All right. Those aren't actually great examples from a horary point of view, but there you go. So that was a long trip. I mean, I am considering ending this video and starting another one, because Parallax is going to be kind of another lengthy conversation. But the dog said, just go for it. I don't know if you heard Isabel. She said, woo, 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 woo. So let's do it. All right, so parallax. So I said this incorrect thing yesterday. Let me go to right now, and then I'll go back to this moon Venus conjunction. All right, and I was sharing how, yes, there's a conjunction by longitude, but not a conjunction by latitude, which is how far the planets are from the ecliptic plane, right? Only the sun is confined to the ecliptic, right? So sun's a latitude, which is a distance north or south of the ecliptic. This is the ecliptic, and I'll just go right now. So let me dim the light, and you'll see that all the other planets, they have their own orbital paths, right? So like this green one is Venus's. Venus is currently pretty far from the ecliptic plane. Where the green Venus's orbital path crosses the yellow, that's the ecliptic, the Earth-Sun plane, right? So sun's path through our skies. Where the green Venus's path crosses the yellow, the ecliptic, the sun's path, are Venus's geocentric nodes. Okay. And you can see here, well, let's just go back to this conjunction last night of moon Venus. It was around this time, that not all conjunctions are occultations. This is why not every new moon is an eclipse. Oh, I guess it's a little earlier than that, isn't it? That looks like it, right? So on our chart, we just show them in the same degree of the zodiac, okay? So see how they're kind of right at this same line, all right? That's that, well, this would be 1, 2, 2.5 degrees of tropical Capricorn. You can see stellariums marking that south point, tropical 0 Capricorn, the cardinal cusp here with the glyph, right? So it's like 2.5 Capricorn, which is what our chart shows too, right? But notice here, Venus's latitude is -3 3/4, about 4, where the moon's latitude is about -3, right? So that they are conjoined in longitude, tropical zodiac degree, they are not conjoined in latitude, okay, which is their distance, in this case, south of the ecliptic, as we saw the Venus is about 1 degree further south, all right, or they're not conjoined from a difference reference plane in declination, which would be their distance south of the celestial equator, the plane of Earth's rotational axis, here shown in blue, okay? So not every conjunction, in fact, it's rare for a conjunction to be an occultation, right? Like a new moon is typically a no moon, because instead of seeing moon occult the sun, eclipse the sun, moon is moving above or below the sun, depending on where you are looking from. All right, and no shadow play for you, no eclipse for you. We are entering eclipse season, and how do we know? Because the sun is getting close to one of the lunar nodes, in this case, the south lunar node. And when the sun is near the nodes, that means the new moons, right, and the full moons are meeting near the nodes, which are the places where the path of moon crosses the path of the sun. Right, so here is in this moment of near the moment of the moon Venus conjunction last night, we can see this is the moon's north node, where moon crosses from south of the ecliptic to north of the ecliptic. And the south node would be on the other side. It's over here, right in the claws of the Scorpion, which in our day and age mark the entrance or the cusp between tropical Scorpio and tropical Sagittarius. That's right, the Scorpion is Sagittarius, the scales are Scorpio. Like right now, this 15 degrees Scorpio sun is very close to Zubin el-Janubi, which is the fulcrum of the scales in our day and age, residing at 15 degrees tropical Scorpio, right? You can see here the longitude 225. All right, so parallax, and this is a cool thing, and one thing I was showing yesterday is well, check this out on a map. So we can see these extreme declinations. This is called out of bounds, when the southern latitude, in this case of Venus and the moon, at a very southern declination degree of the zodiac, 0 Capricorn is the most southern degree. When they have southern latitude at a southern degree, they're going to have a southern declination that is further south of the sun's extreme. The sun's extreme is the Tropic of Capricorn. The sun only because the zodiac is defined between the tropicos, hence tropical zodiac. Tropicos, Greek for turnaround. Every year, the sun will move south to the Tropic of Capricorn, stop, that's solstice, sun stops, turn around, tropicos, and then move north for 6 months, passing the equator at equinox time and getting to the Tropic of Cancer at solstice, the northern extreme. And you can see this on the horizons. The sun, after moving 6 months north, will then stop, turn around, and move 6 months south, passing the equator at equinox, getting to the Tropic of Capricorn when it ingresses tropical Capricorn, right? Makes sense, yeah? So when we have planets that are beyond the Tropic of Capricorn, which is equal in terrestrial latitude to Earth's tilt angle, right? It's about 23.5 degrees. This is the difference, and we call it the tilt between the equator, which is Earth's rotational axis, and ecliptic, which is Earth's orbital axis, right? So equator day, ecliptic year, right? And the difference is this 23.5 degree thing, which is the tropics. So the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn. This thing's a little bit wrong, by the way. I've never found a correctly built armillary sphere in this modern times. Story for another time. So the Tropic of Capricorn is about 23.5 degrees south of Earth's equator. It's actually 23 degrees, 26 minutes, and 15 arc seconds. Okay. So when we have planets that are beyond that declination, as is the case here for Moon, 2607, right? More than 23 and a half. And Venus, 2713, this is significantly out of bounds. They are south, in this case, of Earth's Tropic of Capricorn. They are in places that the sun could only dream to go. And one way we can see that is on an astrocartography map. So I'm showing only the midheaven lines. This is where in that moment of time, the Moon-Venus conjunction, where each of the planets were culminating. So here where I live in California, around the time of the conjunction, Chiron was just about to culminate or reach the local midheaven, the meridian. You can see that here. I live here, there's Chiron. Neptune had already done so, so Neptune's in the 9th house, okay? Mercury and Mars in this conjunction were well below the ground where I live, but if we cast this chart for Eastern India, we would see them at the midheaven. These are midheaven lines. And there's one place in every moment time on Earth where the planet is directly overhead, and that is indicated by these circles in this wonderful Astro Gold software's version of an astrocartography map. So I'll zoom into Australia here, and this is the Tropic of Capricorn. And Moon and Venus are overhead south of the Tropic of Capricorn, right? And we can see here, like if I cast the longitudinal positions, which is in Zodiaco, they're going to be perfectly on top of one another, right? And they're at like 1, 2.5 Capricorn. So they're actually on their way back from the Tropic of Capricorn. That degree of the zodiac is heading back from the southern extreme to the equinox point, which is 0 Aries, right? But in Mundo, where they actually are, because we will also consider their latitude, right? Considering the truth that they are not on the ecliptic, but in this case, Moon and Venus even more so south of the ecliptic plane. So they're in Mundo, or of the Earth calculations will show them south of the ecliptic, which is this curve whose bounds are the tropics, right? And so south of the Tropic of Capricorn. So Moon and Venus, right? And so if you're literally at this time, now the sun was still up in the sky, but as I saw here just last night, and I'll do it again tonight if clouds allow, see Venus with my naked eye during the day. So I shouldn't say tonight, today I will do that. And the moon will help me know where Venus is in my local space, right? So if I'm laying on my back here, in the outback, all right, so I could stare up and literally see Moon directly above my head and Venus just a little bit south of there, or maybe I'm laying underneath Venus and Moon's just a little bit north of there, and that like very close conjunction, right, which isn't an exact conjunction, but it would be something like this, more like this, because I'd be laying on my back during the day and there they are at the top of the sky, right? So not all conjunctions are occultations. In fact, it's very rare because the planet needs to share not only longitude, zodiac degree, but also latitude. You see? If they share latitude in the same zodiac degree, they will also share declination. Latitude is a measurement from the ecliptic. The ecliptic here shown as this curve that goes across the equinox, the equator, up to the Tropic of Cancer, across the equator, down to the Tropic of Capricorn in every moment's time. I mean, if I play this through time, you're going to see that sine curve of the ecliptic. It's a sine curve in declination moving across the map. Okay. But in this moment of time, 0 Cancer was culminating here in the Atlantic, and 0 Capricorn was culminating here over Australia. So what I was wrong about yesterday was so cool, because I saw a friend of mine in Japan posted that she was not able to see the occultation because of clouds. And I was like, wait, that's not an occultation. Oh, actually, I see why it is. I lied yesterday. And the reason why it is this, it's so cool. That yes, while Moon is not right with Venus here, let's go in this moment. I think we're going to have to go a little bit later. I'll cast it for Tokyo, right? So let's see, for example, Moon, Venus, here's their conjunction. I have this cast for California, but now I'm going to relocate it to Tokyo. So same moment, right? Moon, Venus conjunction, but they were high in the sky. And therefore, I'm even surprised that this occultation would have been witnessed because it's before sunset. Okay, but now we're going to have to push this special button, right? So this gets really interesting. Let me just make this pretty again. Parallax. And Astro Gold and many of the softwares offer a little button where I can see this parallax moon on. And in this case, you'll just see the moon moved 4 arc minutes. So I'm still super surprised by this, but let's go to the map. And I'm going to move the map so I can also move through time. I want to zoom out. So what we want to do is kind of work on the Japan point of view. And let me show you online. I saw this article about the lunar occultation of Venus yesterday. And they're showing this very small part of Earth where the occultation could be observed. So this is a truth of occultation, which is cool. It's just like a solar eclipse, which is an occultation of the sun by the moon. Like even a total solar eclipse, it's not seen everywhere that it's daytime. Many of us, even during a total solar eclipse, can look at the sun, and from our point of view, the moon is above or below the sun. Okay, because this is parallax. It depends where you are looking from. We measure the placement of the planets and the signs on our charts, not from the surface of the Earth where we are actually looking from, and where I think most of us are born, but rather from the center of the Earth where we are all one. And it's a very strange thing. Like why? And look, moon's the only one who's close enough to Earth for this to make a difference. Okay, so here's the experiment. Like I'm looking far away at a mountain. Okay, and the mountain is above on my desk, the armillary sphere, which I just set down there. Now, as I move my head around, right, like the mountain's still the same kind of relative position to the hill in front of it because they're way out there. But as I'm moving back and forth, the armillary sphere, which is right here, or my finger even closer, is significantly shifting in its relationship, its visual relationship to the mountain peak. So the hill in front of the mountain peak staying right in that same alignment because they are way out there. Okay, so think of that as like, I don't know, Saturn and a star. All right. But my finger would be like the moon, so close by. And if I'm changing where I'm looking from, okay, like so from over here versus over here on Earth, which in this model is my face, right? So if I'm looking from, I don't know, Tokyo versus LA, I'm actually experiencing this close by thing, moon, slightly shift from this point of view. Okay, so here we were in Tokyo in the moment. Let's go to the moment of the conjunction. Actually, this is the moment of the conjunction, right? So let's go back to not parallax. So this is now geocentric, measured from the center of the Earth. And we have the conjunction from there, but topocentric, measured from the surface of the Earth, which considers parallax. Suddenly, this isn't the moment of the conjunction. It had already happened from Tokyo's point of view. Well, let's go back. Well, let's go to anywhere else. I'll go here. And you'll see here, the conjunction actually had not yet happened. And check out the parallax point of view here. So see on Australia on the map, right? So if I turn parallax, we're going to see this image that we had seen before. Venus is a little bit more south than moon. Okay, well, if we turn the parallax on, suddenly from California, which is like up there, right, point of view, they're like side by side like this, right? and they're below the horizon anyway, so we're not seeing it, okay? But let's go to like Hawaii. Hawaii was a place where I was looking at this conjunction saying, wow, that would look so amazing. You know, Hawaii is actually the state, and we'll need something like, and learning how to spell. All right. So from Hawaii, they were actually above the horizon. And now again, I'm going to turn off parallax, right? So during their conjunction, if I turn the parallax on, they actually weren't conjoined yet. And you can see that on the map, right? It's pretty cool. So they're actually, even though in the chart, we say they're right on top of one another, you know, and you can see it in the picture, they're actually side by side. Now this picture wasn't actually during the moment of an exact conjunction because the conjunction happened below the ground. So I couldn't show it. But in Hawaii, if you looked at the moment of the exact conjunction, they would actually appear side by side too. Now let's go to Tokyo, which is in this swath here, right? Most of Japan is. Tokyo is about right there, kind of right in the middle of this, thanks to inthesky.org showing us where the occultation was visible. And here we are in geocentric, right? Earth-centered, which shows a conjunction. But if we go to topocentric, which means turn the parallax on, now they're like actually right on top of one another, right? So there actually is an occultation. I mean, I would prefer to show the moon above Venus in a way, because that would help me see that moon's occulting Venus, but we're not looking from the heavens like this map is oriented, we're looking from the earth, right? And specifically, this is looking from Japan. Because if I cast this for Australia, and let's just show an example. Right, you can very clearly see that they're not conjunct. Now they're only looking 3 degrees away. So this is a little bit after the actual conjunction, but still, because you're lying right under them and they have that difference of latitude and difference of declination, they're very clearly not right on top of one another. So from the heavens, I guess for the Venus occulting sun or moon, yeah, from some point out there, that would be how it would be experienced. Or laying on your back in Australia, it's not like moon is actually covering Venus up. However, in going back to Tokyo, you can see, right, not from the geocentric, which is showing their clear difference in latitude in declination during the time of the conjunction, but from the topocentric parallax on, there you go. Right? Like moon is actually occulting Venus. And as we move, I'm going to just move through minutes here. I mean, now the occultation, I think, would have perfected here during the conjunction. So, and maybe I just have something to learn. So I move through time here because it'd be cool to see this happening after sunset. And, you know, we're getting closer when the sun sets. Now, with binoculars, with your naked eye, like literally, you can see them in the sky. You can see Venus right now. She is that bright. But we get over here, and you're looking up here from Japan, and they're clearly, it's not an occultation now, right? This is too far apart in longitude. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing, like, I'm not sure if in my astrological software, I could actually sort this kind of thing out, like figure out where on the earth an occultation is happening. And the same is true for an eclipse. So let me end there. But before I move along, let me say this thing that's so important, right? So Those celestial events are for the entire earth. And I think it's beautiful in that respect that we do measure heavenly happenings, the above from the center of earth, the below, because it's talking about how does it like influence, I'll use that word, our entire earth, and then she, us, for we are earthlings, all of us. And so just because you don't see a thing don't mean you don't gonna be it, right? So I usually say that in really bad grammar. I took that to like a next level of terrible grammar, right? Just because you don't see it doesn't mean you don't be it, is what I like to say, because I'm fond of rhymes. So let me go back to this and this idea of that aperture of the camera is what's making that star, not the actual vision of Venus itself. But that's how the camera is seeing the star. So is it not real? Like when we look at these happenings, these celestial happenings from different places on the globe, we experience them in different ways. Moonblink.info is like my favorite eclipse sandbox online, and I imagine I'll be sharing more of this as time goes by, because here we are in eclipse season. How do I know? Well, the sun is near a lunar node, not near enough that the previous new moon, the Scorpio new moon, was an eclipse. Look at that. Parallax must be on, because I went to the new moon and it shows them a degree apart, right? So let's turn that parallax button off there, right? But it's also an interesting thing to have on, because let me go to the full moon to follow. Now this full moon is certainly close enough to the nodes, right, for the moon to be visibly seen passing through the shadow of Earth, which exists always opposite the sun on the ecliptic. People will draw the moon, the Earth there. No, the Earth is the center of a geocentric chart. Listen to the words, geocentric. But the shadow of Earth is always opposite Earth from the sun on the ecliptic plane. And right, and so the node is on the ecliptic plane. The moon only is when she's near her nodes, which is where her path crosses the sun's path, the ecliptic, from our point of view. And so when moon and sun align in syzygy, the alignment of three things, sun, earth, and moon, in full moon near the nodes, shadow play, right? Blood moon sometimes, or maybe a partial lunar eclipse. This one's so close to the nodes that it looks total, and surprisingly it is partial, but just very barely. Okay, so this is a cool thing. We're in Tokyo, and here we are during this moment of the middle moment of the lunar eclipse. And at, let's see, 5:57 p.m., the sun has set. So anywhere where it's night and clouds allow, we can see a lunar eclipse, which is the thing I love about lunar eclipses, right? We get these different pictures from different points of view of the Earth of the same heavenly phenomena, really connecting us in this day and age where the web will let us share so quickly. I mean, even real time, right? But we're like literally seeing different views of the eclipse. And the cool thing is, because of parallax, we're actually seeing them at different times. It was a lunar eclipse that taught me this and really challenged me with, oh my gosh, like actually these charts, like when this says it's full moon at 5:57 p.m., that's not quite true. Let me turn on the parallax button. And you can see here moon at 2750 from Tokyo's point of view, from the surface of Earth, tococentric, has already opposed the sun. All right, so I got to go back some minutes. And the Astro Gold button actually won't work. I'm going to have to do this physically by tapping the button on a computer. Is that physically? Well, my finger is moving. Okay. To find out when, with the topocentric point of view, moon actually opposes the sun. Now look, we're 4:41. It's a whole different trip. And so the middle of the eclipse is right at moonrise, which will look cool, but that means Tokyo isn't in a place where you get to see the entire lunar eclipse. So here at Moonblink, let me click this November 19th, 2021 GMT time lunar eclipse. And it's weird. It's kind of backwards, I would say, but because eclipses are seen at night. But this map will show you everywhere that sees the eclipse, which is everywhere here in the light. And around Hawaii is the maximum eclipse. Anywhere completely in light will see the entirety of the eclipse. In this shaded area, this means, as we can see, we just found out, like the moon rises already in the midst of the eclipse. And so you only get to see the second half of the shadow play. And there's other places where the moon sets while in the eclipse, okay? So this is how close to total this particular eclipse is. This is the moon moving through the shadow of Earth. That's called the umbra, the red bit, while the rest, the gray, is the shadow of Earth's atmosphere, which does not cast much of a shadow. It's called the preumbra. So a penumbral eclipse is, or sorry, it's called the penumbra. A penumbral eclipse is the moon passing through the shadow of Earth's atmosphere. It basically looks like a full moon. All right. So an umbral eclipse is a visible lunar eclipse, right? And so, I mean, it just looks like almost total, but there's a tiny little bit of the moon, 3% of the moon, which will stay outside of Earth's shadow. You can see here in California, where I live, if clouds allow, I'm going to be able to see this whole thing. Hawaii may be the greatest show. You're getting it right around the middle of the night when the eclipse perfects. Okay. So let me take it to where I am. And I'm going to turn the parallax off for now. And show you at the time of the lunar eclipse here, right? 2714 Taurus opposite the 2014 Scorpio sun. And that's at 12:57 a.m., right? So in the middle of the night, high in the sky, super high in the sky, these late degrees of Taurus in the northern hemisphere. So I'll be out there like with a lot of worms, like on my back, right? In the camera and also the lenses of my face. Let me take you to another wonderful place online, time and date.com. We can go to sun and moon eclipses, November 18th to 19th, partial lunar eclipse. Do they know where I am on Earth? I think they're just saying in general. Eclipse looked up, search for a city or place. So Richmond, California. I'm not seeing it. Let me. Oh, Sobrante will work. That's where I am. Cool. So this will tell me how the eclipse is going to be experienced here. All right. So moon entering the penumbra, the shadow of Earth's atmosphere. Not much, like a slight dimming happening, but now moon entering the umbra, the shadow of Earth's rocky body. And now we get some serious shadow and the weird phase backwards situation, other things I'll share about closer to the time. And the moon turns blood red in the shadow of the Earth, where we here as Earthlings incarnate into bodies with blood. So we can see in our sky that moon and sun and therefore soul and spirit are the same size in this wonderful place of growth, matter, Earth. All right, so here we get this image, right? I mean, it's so close to a total lunar eclipse, but there'll be a bit of you know, I guess sliver crescent, if you will, still shining, just that little thing there. All right, so at what time? So this will tell us that the maximum eclipse is 1:02 a.m. That's the conjunction. Hold the phone, because over here, and let's make this pretty, over here, I'm seeing 12:57 a.m. This says 1:02. Now that's only 5 minutes difference. And the reason why is it's on high. Okay, we saw it in Tokyo, and I'll go back there just to close this thing out. But let's in the meantime go to this 1:02 a.m. on the chart here. And it looks like they're lying. 12:16 is not opposite 12:14. Well, we're going to have to push the parallax button. And we will see, oh, this actually is not the time on the chart, even with parallax considered. It's much later than this, where the moon opposes the sun. So I'm learning I'm wrong about something, or there's a glitch in the matrix in one place or the other, because the chart says with parallax that the moon is opposite the sun at 1:50. And now I think that the map will maybe help us see, right? Because moon and sun are going to conjoin not right above California. So this is so cool. This is like a parallax thing, right? So it looks like they're opposite with the parallax on here. but they're actually opposite according to the timeanddate.com clock. And I've seen that those to be true. What was it? 1:14 a.m. right here. And just check that again. Oh no, sorry, 1:02 a.m. Live learning. Witness your astronaut being educated through trial and error and the wonderful access to information online and with wonderful machines like Stellarium and Astro Gold. Okay, so look, it looks like there are actually 14 arc minutes with the parallax button on, out from perfect opposition, but I'm sure the reason why, and we'd have to really zoom in to see this, and I don't know that we're going to see any difference. Yeah, the moon is just right on top of the sun. That's weird. But so from the Bay's point of view here, this will be the time. Oh, right. Sorry. The moon is not on top of the sun. The moon is opposite the sun. Let me bring in the IC lines. Right. So now we're going to get, I'll take away the midheaven line. So there's the sun line, sun at the IC, and this is where the moon is at the midheaven. And the Earth's shadow, which would be fun to put on the sun's line, must be here from California's point of view. If this time and date timing of 1:02 a.m. is true for the maximum eclipse. So it's so fun. Like I'm actually just tuning into the truth that what I first realized like some time ago, I took a bunch of people down to see an eclipse in Arizona. And I was surprised to find that the time on the chart was not true for the center of the eclipse for what the astronomers were saying on the many websites I was looking at. And then later my experience of the thing, which was true to what the astronomers had said, shocker. And I was like, what's wrong with the chart? And that's when I had this kind of crash course experiential understanding and the importance of parallax, like where I'm actually looking from, right? And then I had to go through this whole existential crisis. Is astrology real? Why are we measuring from the center of the earth, not from like where we live and where we can see these things? And parallax is going to shift where the nodes are. If they're near a cusp, they might even change signs. I made the accident of reading the quote unquote wrong moon for some clients because my old software, if I went to heliocentric, sun-centered, and came back to geocentric, earth-centered, it would actually stop at topocentric, earth's surface. And so earth's surface versus earth's center can literally shift the moon from one sign to the next. And so I had read some clients not understanding that the software had this particularity with the wrong moon sign. Well, it's hard to say. Let me show you one wonderful example to close this thing out. George Harrison, one of my favorite astrocartography examples, and I'll show you why. Bring up his chart. Good pro tip, astrologers, pause your Zoom share when you're going to dig up your chart so people out there don't see all of your clients' names who are saved in your device, okay? Pro tip. So here's George Harrison, Libra rising with the moon about to rise in Scorpio, right? Wrong. She already has. So it looks like she's below the ground, but the moon has northern latitude beyond the north node. And we can see this in the points list as well. The moon's latitude at the time of George Harrison's birth, almost 5 degrees, which is just about the furthest north from the ecliptic the moon can get. And so moon's altitude is positive. That means moon is above the ground, right? That's not what the chart shows. It is what the map shows. Let me go over to Liverpool. These are the midheaven lines. I'm going to bring in the rising lines. And then we push this button, which will help you see where Liverpool is. Okay, the center of all these lines, these local space lines, is Liverpool. So the Earth spins from the west to the east, and this is showing us that where Liverpool is, the moon has not yet risen, which means these are zodiacal lines because that's what the chart shows us, and that means the degree the moon projects to is not yet risen. But if I go in Mundo, and let me show you where Liverpool is again, right here. That means Liverpool has already spun through the rising moon from the Earth's point of view in Mundo. So George Harrison, already one of my favorite examples, because the chart says the moon has not risen, but the map reveals that it has, at least in Mundo, but I look to the truth of in Zodiaco as well. That's what we map or chart on our astrology wheels. Fun fact with George Harrison as well, the moon was culminating here in India, where he studied with the Maharishi. Okay, so let's go to Hawaii now. And George Harrison lived in Maui for some time, which is very close to what Jim Lewis called the fame line, the sun at the midheaven. So that's the midday sun. And he lived very close to the house of the sun, Haleakala, on this island, Maui. That's not why I want to show you this. And it's not like George Harrison had to get to Hawaii to achieve fame. Oh, the other way around. In this case, his fame allowed him to buy a super mansion, whatever, in Hawaii, right? I don't know the place. This is why I want to share this with you. So here's George Harrison's moon from the center of Earth measurement 009 Scorpio, right? If I turn the parallax on, we're going to find that George Harrison's moon was actually 56 arc minutes of Scorpio from Liverpool's point of view. And maybe that's why I love this example so much, because my sun is 056 Scorpio. Parallax or not, the sun is on the ecliptic and also very far away. Like where we experience the sun is where we experience the sun. All right. So yeah, my solar degree is like exact George's parallax moon. I need to take that a little further really quick. So 05641 and my sun is at 05605, pretty close. All right, sorry to indulge myself there for a moment. What I want to do here, I'm going to go back to the geocentric moon. So for George Harrison, 0009 Scorpio. And I'm going to relocate him to Maui. I think he lived out in Hana, but I'm not sure. Okay, so as it is everywhere on the Earth, because we're measuring the moon from the center of Earth, George Harrison's relocated Hana, Hawaii chart. Here's that sun at the midheaven that we saw on the map. Okay, sun just on the 9th house side. The moon's at 0009, right? I mean, that's everywhere on Earth because we measure from the center of Earth. But if we turn the parallax on, this is fun. If George Harrison were born in Hawaii, and it wouldn't be the only place, that first degree Scorpio moon actually was seen from the surface of Earth in Hawaii to be in the last degree of tropical Libra. So did George Harrison love Hawaii because he got to shift from his truth of Scorpio moon, maybe to relax into the beauty of the land? Venus is going to do it anyway, because his moon was Libra. So parallax is a really amazing thing. And I'll finish by retrograding back to a thing I had said near the middle of this now wonderfully long flow. Perhaps you like learning and you're not here in the kind of OCD mindset of only give me a minute and move along because I have too much to do. But perhaps you also have too much to do. If so, you're probably not to this point of the video, unless you ellipsed back to it, right? If you do like long learning and you're enjoying this, please like the video, share the video, help me out. If you want to give a little something back for what you're receiving here, you will find a donate button at geminibrett.com. And most importantly, you will find a sessions link at the Work With Me page if you'd like to do a reading, tune into some of this sacred astronomy in your chart, which is one of my specialties, but not my only. Ancient astrology, modern astrology, all the things. You'll also find a courses page if you want to learn more about approaching the sacred astronomy of astrology. You'll find my course link there, geminibrett.com/courses. Gemini Brett with Gemini T's, meaning 2 of them. Okay. Anyway, there's this thing I had said before, which was I love the lunar eclipse because unlike a solar eclipse, where because of parallax, and let me show one more picture, we'll go back to moonblink.info, and I'll show you the coming total solar eclipse in Sagittarius, December 4th. Will only be seen in its totality, like you're going to have to be on a boat or in Antarctica. That doesn't mean that a lot of I mean, there's some of actually Africa, South Africa, and Namibia who will be able to see that eclipse in very impartiality, even though it is a total solar eclipse. You've got to be somewhere within this blue to experience it, and that's in the importance of parallax versus. Right, even though, so it'll be daytime here, and I don't even notice that it's an eclipse on that December 4th time, versus the lunar eclipses where anywhere it's daytime or nighttime, right? Full moon, lunar eclipse. So we see that at nighttime. Anywhere it's nighttime, you can experience the eclipse. Some of us will see all of it, right? Some of us won't see the eclipse until it'll be rising already in the midst or setting before it finishes. Some places won't see it at all. So there's this thing I said, and it's a beautiful truth, which is like, wow, I love that we'll get pictures from Hawaii and from California and from San Jose, Costa Rica, and from Maine, right? And from Thailand, whatever, right? We'll get these different pictures of the same heavenly phenomena, but seen from different points of Earth, and helping us see that we get to see the same thing from different points of view. Now, that's just true of the human experience. Okay, so we do have the global happenings, and that's like the transit chart. If you really want to understand astrological motions, you've got to take your chart out of the middle of the transit wheel and just watch the transits alone. That's like the global happening. It will teach you so much of the astronomy. We're so used to putting our charts in. You see how I need to do it. I'm like, George Harrison, I'm me and George. Anyway, so however, we do experience Earth through our eyes. The natal chart is so important. Learning astrology through our own nativity is one of the ways where we approach it in this day and age of very kind of, meocentric astrology. And that's on some levels okay, right? So what I was wrong about what I said before is that the lunar eclipse will be experienced in different ways, but in the same moment of time, because what we're learning with parallax here, not only proving the truth that occultations like eclipse phenomenon or last night's moon occult Venus from a very little place of Earth in Southeast Asia are particular to location, the time is also particular, right? So the middle of the coming lunar eclipse here in California will not actually be the same moment of time where Hawaii will experience the middle of that lunar eclipse. And I just find that to be such a phenomenal, beautiful truth. We are experiencing the same thing from the center of Earth where we are all one, but from these different surface locations. It's experienced different in space and slightly different in time. All right, well, thanks so much for bringing your space to so much time with me here today. Here's to you. Got a lot of classes to build. And so I did this one to procrastinate. I don't think so. I think to share. Sharing is caring. And I hope you like hearing these expansions upon astrological and astronomical moon magic. So translation of light on the astrological side, parallax and occultation on the astronomical. Thanks for spending some time with me, friends. I will see you in space.